Hey Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So excited to talk to you, man. I want to start off with first your story. How did you find out about BitClout, and what intrigued you to join the platform?
I found out about BitClout on Twitter. A lot of crypto maximalist was saying it's a scam, and I just got curious, so I looked at it, and I'm like, wow, they're closed source and too centralized, so maybe it might be a scam. But then I just sticked around as more people were building stuff to in it. So I'm kind of in the beginning I was like, this might be a scam, but I'll just create an account anyways and see how it goes. And kind of went towards the middle where I'm now like, okay, I'm building stuff. I think it will be less centralized in the future. They will. It's different than Bitcoin. Bitcoin was like having this entirely like it was an open source repo. They released on the P2P Foundation forum. People joined Zestom on the basis of, hey, this is my cool project. And in the early years of Bitcoin, I heard this rumor that you'd actually get like up to like 5 free Bitcoins just for downloading the white paper. I wasn't that early. I was into crypto since 2011. But anyways,
Wow,
I heard about this on Twitter and I joined, and my curiosity basically just peaked over time.
love that. And so you've been in crypto since 2011. That's crazy, man. That's so awesome. Have you been building projects in the space for last few years, or like in crypto space?
Yeah, I've built a variety of different projects. So I'm currently running something called Linero, and I'm working on a decentralized internet SDK. So I actually have like this the thing that's peer to peer for distributed computing. So it's this SDK that someone integrates in their app, and think of it not like Bluetooth, but a communication protocol similar to Bluetooth. So imagine someone gets like 50 million downloads for their app, and that SDK is integrated to it. Each one of those phones that are running the SDK can now transfer data between each other, peer to peer, and they route as a network within each other. So you're basically having like this offline data transfer protocol. And whenever you hear about like the decentralized internet or things like that, I'm actually like, okay, if everyone just uses this is actually a decentralized internet. Like this is actually an offline network. So that's the most interesting thing I'm building right now. And then I have a bunch of other projects. So outside of what I'm doing with that and on BitClout, I have a startup that's trying to go on Series A right now. I
Love it.
have things like I have different projects like Etherstone. I created underwater wireless networking protocols, so underwater acoustic networks for monitoring things like oceanic data and phosphorus run-ons and nitrate levels. Obviously, that's not blockchain, but that's just another project. So there's a variety of things. It's like if we were going to talk about all my projects, this would probably be like a 70-hour podcast. So
I like it. So you're a builder. You like to hack shit, and you're like it's fun. It's you just have fun with it, kind of thing, right?
pretty much just
Yeah.
a builder. I mean, there's it's not a builder as in like DIY. It's not like the typical DIY or bootstrap thing
No.
where
Yeah. Yeah.
people there's high end research that goes into it. So
Yeah. Makes sense. So for Big Cloud, like you're working on a bunch of different projects, right? How did that evolution happen? Which was the first one you started, and then you were like, this one looks cool. So how did you evolve on Big Cloud itself?
so the first project I was working on was Film Clout, and I'm still working on it. But basically, it's trying to do a bunch of different things, including like crowdsourcing for indie films. It's based off of an old technology I created before called Block Films, which was trying to do like crowdsourcing using Bitcoin smart contracts. So I'm just like, maybe I could do something similar for BitClout. And then I wanted to transition into mining. So Cloudpool was actually the first. Everyone keeps saying Cloud Reactor is like the first mining pool. We were actually the first people that published software. So our code actually came first. Not lots of people mine on Stratum because we made like config files and then a guide, and you could type the commands on the terminals and they would work. But most people just like one click install. So we transitioned towards focusing more on like actual mining pools rather than the user friendliness of it. But after Cloudpool came other apps as well. So there was Cloud there was Cloudpool, and then there were also apps like CloudLock. So CloudLock is quite interesting in the fact that it already actually had a release, so it was focused on like open source hardware wallets and trying to do things like prune the nodes for the BitClout blockchain running on like low spec hardware, and then it transitioned into I had this product before that was like this open source LoRaWAN wireless dev board that actually had firmware that could connect to one of my pre-existing blockchain systems. And I'm like, I wanna also use this pre-existing product and maybe build an app for it on top of BitClout. So that was one of the things I already started doing, and then maybe I'm like, maybe I could start building like blockchain based hardware computing systems. So Chainboard, by the way, which is the hardware product that CloudLock is using right now, this was actually an idea that I had back in 2018, and it's already running like it's already compatible with enterprise blockchain systems for my other startups. But was it was the first. It wasn't the first, but products like elk.cc and stuff like that that claimed to be the first in like 2017, 2018, it came around that time. So there's a lot of things that I'm building on BitClout that either utilizes pre-existing technology that I built or is building on top of each other. So even Cloudpool, something that's interesting about Cloudpool is now BitClout is saying, hey, we might not be doing mining anymore, or the mining rewards are like 90% off. That caused a lot of people to sell Cloudpool, but that's fine. I wasn't rewarded at all compared to like the other mining pools. But now with what I'm doing with cloud contracts, if someone wants to build a DApp on top of cloud contracts when it releases, one of the things that they could do is they could make their decentralized application actually mineable, sort of like other cryptos that were on the Ethereum blockchain as well, like 0x Bitcoin. So for some of the higher liquidity smart contracts that might be built on there, if they integrate mining features to it, we might actually be able to integrate that to Cloudpool. So, and then the same thing happens with like Cloud World and stuff like Space Cloud, where you're utilizing hardware from CloudLock and so on. So it's this brilliant idea where you're building technologies that sort of work together.
Interesting. I kind of want to break them down one at a time. So let's start with the cloud pool. So actually, let's start with something simple. Can you talk about basics of big cloud mining and what has changed since the deflation bomb happened?
Well, the deflation bomb, I think it's overrated. I mean, they're just trying to have something where they're trying to make their currency like a fixed amount. Which I feel like every properly designed cryptocurrency should not be inflationary, because like the whole point of cryptocurrency outside of the decentralized aspect of it is to fix lots of the problems that we have in our pre-existing monetary system. So making a which is also why I'm not a fan of Dogecoin. I'm gonna get a lot of heat for that. But making a cryptocurrency inflationary is not proper design to begin with. But they're basically, from what I understand, saying we're gonna make a fixed amount of 11 million, and 11 million. Obviously, if you have a fixed amount of 11 million and you're mining on the Kakak SAW 3 algorithm, eventually as more and more and more blocks are confirmed, which is probably why they cut the mining rewards and are probably trying to do some sort of proof of stake consensus. As more mining blocks are rewarded over time and you have a fixed amount, it becomes higher in difficulty. And you already seen what happened in regards to the energy consumption with Bitcoin with a fixed amount of 21 million, but the blocks for Bitcoin, the rewards were already much higher in the beginning, but that's a different story. But basically, when you have a fixed amount like that, you're mining already a very limited amount of blocks. It's gonna become more and more hardware intensive. So they're probably like they were probably already planning to switch to proof of stake to begin with, and that's probably why they announced what they announced with mining rewards. I think instead of proof of stake though, I would probably, if I were them, try doing some sort of merged mining or hybrid consensus algorithm if they actually want to go that route. Because I'm not sure, like, in terms of like the actual architecture, that proof of stake is the best way to go.
So is it possible to change? I guess it is because that's what Ethereum is trying to do, going from proof of work to proof of stake. Oh, sorry, right? And so is it possible to change? Because if I'm not mistaken, BitClout was built on top, like on the top of the Bitcoin source code, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it how hard is it to go from that proof of work to proof of stake?
It depends on how the consensus is built. Most of the time, lots of the times, if you have something like the address type tied to it, then everyone has to create a new address. But besides that, it's obviously you integrate a soft fork. All the nodes have to accept the chains, and then eventually, over time, with I believe at least like a 51% usage, it adapts to the new consensus algorithm until no one is mining anymore, pretty much.
Got
I've
it.
actually,
Interesting.
this is actually an interesting topic because I had the same discussion actually with Bitcoin. So I had like this whole argument with Bitcoin core developers before in regards to like the energy efficiency of proof of work, because I was trying to do something called proof of space and time capacity, or proof of storage, basically
I,
with
I heard. Sorry, I was going to say I heard Chia the
Yeah,
is
they're doing
kind of
proof of
yeah.
capacity, but I was trying to build a hybrid consensus algorithm that does both proof of work and proof of capacity without trying with, and it's built in a way where it doesn't disenfranchise ASIC miners. So ASIC miners, if they're mining in the future and you have high end hard drives also mining, it's not gonna disenfranchise their mining rewards. It makes Bitcoin more energy efficient, and I was also trying to upgrade the protocol in regards to the cryptographic hashing to be something like crypto McLeese, or something that is quantum proof, because currently they don't have full quantum proof encryption. And all the Bitcoin core team, when I did something like a Bitcoin improvement proposal, not all of them, but like three or four that were like very outspoken, is this like, oh, we could just mine using renewables and stuff like that. And my argument is it's not even about renewables. If there is a more efficient way to mine, even if you switch to renewables in the future, you're still having some sort of you're still having an efficiency computationally. So that was the whole argument that I was trying to make, and that's why I'm actually currently trying to develop a Bitcoin hard fork as well, because there wasn't like an agreement on that. Like when I actually talked to different cryptographers about it, outside of like a small team of like 4 or 5 people, I mean, the Bitcoin core team is obviously more than 4 or 5 people, but like 4 or 5 people that were outspoken in the mailing lists. When I tried talking to actual cryptographers, like outside of the small group of people just talking about that, which anyone can make a Bitcoin improvement proposal. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. It's just a disclaimer. But when I actually tried talking to actual researchers, they were actually a fan of the idea, because it's like you're trying to make Bitcoin mining more efficient in terms of like the adaptability, so more people would be able to mine it as opposed to what they have right now. It doesn't disenfranchise current miners. It also makes the integration that I wanted to do also makes Bitcoin quantum proof. So there's barely any cons to it, but I feel like currently Bitcoin maximalists are like so tied to like the core code and their consensus and how it's built, that they're like, anything that tries changing our consensus, we don't want to touch. And the actual researchers that I talked to, many of them were actually in favor of it. So it's like this whole argument in regards to why I actually want to do a hard fork like that. So that's a different topic, but it's just that you brought that up, so I just sort of
Yeah.
brought that up. Yeah.
No, it's very interesting. I'm actually very curious now because like I said, I'm not as tech friendly as you are, but I'm curious how many developers are behind Bitcoin. Just curious, how many core developers and how many in total?
I don't exactly know. So I was just making a regular improvement proposal on under GitHub, but in regards
Mhm.
to how many developers I'm estimating in terms of like actually doing it like full time and then getting like grants and sponsorships, I think maybe like 12 to 15. Obviously
Wow,
there's hundreds of contributors, but I think like if you actually make like a Bitcoin improvement proposal and see like who's commenting like 7 out of 8 of the times, it's usually going to be like the same group of people, you know?
very interesting. For some reason, I would assume that there's a lot of people behind it. I would not assume only 12 to 15 developers, or like maybe I know you mean contributors outside
But
of that, but
you know what I mean, like mailing lists where people are like knack or ack, where they're like, so if like 3 or 4 people are engaged in a mailing list and they all say no, and it's like the only people engaged in the mailing list, they're like, okay, so for this whole entire code base that changes all of Bitcoin, 3 or 4 people said in this mailing list no, so obviously we did voting democratically, so obviously it's not no one will ever use this, so we'll never update this for like the millions of Bitcoin users and 10,000 Bitcoin nodes that are being ran. So it kind of seems more centralized when you think about the development process. I don't know, like I get how mailing lists work and stuff like that, and like how open source contributors work, but it seems really centralized when you think about like how lots of these cryptocurrencies go about updating, because it'd be different if the mailing list had like 10 million people all voting, but you know.
makes sense. So coming back to our BitClout mining, what's the state of BitClout mining as of right now? Like right now, when this whole thing was dropped last week, and like you said, it might be changing. So where are we at right now? How can a newbie get started?
um well, right now for Bitcoin mining, if they
Oh,
actually do,
BitClout, sorry,
I
BitClout.
mean, sorry, BitClout. I don't know why I
Yeah.
said Bitcoin. I
Oh,
mean, I
okay.
know why I said Bitcoin, but right now for
Yeah.
BitClout mining, I don't know if they'll fully merge the proof of stake. So I don't know if like I'm not fully aware if like the mining already dropped 90%. But if you want to get started, I'd recommend because I run Cloudpool. If you want to mine on Stratum, you just run the Docker node for BitClout, and then you could actually fork or download my Stratum repo. You add the config files. It already has all the config files for Kakac. All you need to do is edit a certain file where you add your public key instead of the public key in the example, and then there's the run command through the terminal. If you run it in the exact same IP address for the peer that the Docker node is running, it's detected, and then you just start mining locally to your wallet. That's how Cloudpool does it. Cloud Reactor, I'm gonna be fair and say how you mine on Cloud Reactor and Bitpool too, because I want to tell people like all options that's available. But Cloud Reactor and Bitpool, both of them have Docker repositories. It's closed source, so it's not open source. So you're not actually seeing what's running on your computer unless you decompile the binaries. But they're easier to use for some people because it's one file instead of you having to edit the file. But if you wanted to run Cloud Reactor or Bitpool, you just download the Docker file for the CUDA miners. You run the command, which they have a specific run command. You just replace the public key with your public key, and then if you have all the dependencies, that's pretty much it. And you can start mining through Cloud Reactor or Bitpool. I prefer my way because
Yeah.
fees and but
So what's the difference? Like why is it like why do you prefer your way? Out of curiosity, like
because I created it.
no, that's fair. That's fair.
I
But I'm
mean,
just curious. Like yeah, yeah,
also with Stratum, it's less fees if you mine locally. So if you mine locally instead of connecting to like a node or VPS, you could actually have 100% of your mining fees. You don't have to lose 5 or 10%. So if you take
got
the
it.
extra like 15 or 20 minutes and you're a bit more technical, you wouldn't have to pay fees doing it on Cloudpool. And then the other thing is Cloudpool. The reason we made so many open source configs and all of that is we're working on actually partnering with we were working on actually partnering with many mining farms. So we were trying to message mining farms, seeing if different VC groups would be interested in building a mining farm. Obviously, in regards to BitClout, that might be out of the picture given this new change. But for stuff like people actually wanting to host nodes, not mine, we're gonna start integrating node hosting. We're also working on specialized hardware just because. And obviously, in the after the cloud contracts release, that actually integrates what we want to integrate. If people integrate mining to their dApps, some of the more popular dApps that we might end up making configs and mining pools for. So, which you
Interesting.
don't
And
have to
so
integrate mining toward for the dApp. Obviously, that's just one of the things that you could obviously do in a JavaScript smart contract or Solidity contract if you wanted to.
got it. One last question about the mining part. So what's the, and this is like trying to understand from an average user's perspective, what's the advantage, or why would I, like, is it because I'm not technical, that's why I would join a mining pool? Or what's the advantage of being in, example, Cloud Pool or Cloud Reactor as compared to, because you said, like, in one case if you're keeping 100%, so why are you even setting that up? Like, what's the advantage on your end? And also, if I'm going to, let's say, Cloud Reactor, who's taking the 5 or 10%? Like, what's the, yeah, how does that business model works, I guess?
So Cloudpool, I mean Cloud Reactor and Bitpool. I noticed some. I don't know how their code works unless I decompiled it. Decompile it. I know how to decompile Docker files. That's very easy to do, but I don't want to because obstruction of license, or I don't know how like they set that up. I don't want to be like, here's a compiled version on. I was originally, I'll be honest, I was originally when I saw that was closed source and I was already building my own thing. I was just curious, like, what code are they using for their thing? I was originally gonna like decompile it and then publish it on GitHub or like make a merge request saying, "Here's your guys' source code." But I didn't want to do that because I didn't know if like they actually want their code open or not. So I decided don't want to get into trouble, don't want to make enemies, so I decided not to do that. So I'm speaking in the perspective of someone that does not know what their code actually is. But I'm assuming since Cloud Reactor has like automatic payments and stuff like that, the actual config files where you would change from your wallet to from their wallet to your wallet, like I have set up with Stratum, is actually their wallet, and they just have like everything compiled with like CUDA binaries and everything. So you download it. They're actually hosting it. So I don't know if they use Stratum or what they use for their VPS host, but they're doing it. They have their config files. So you download it, you run the command. They're getting all the mining rewards, and then they set up the automatic payments. Because
Mm,
that's why I think it doesn't like come immediately to your wallet. With mine, it's obviously you could tell the difference in terms of like you actually setting up Stratum locally. So why would I release all of that as open source? Is the very same reason that I said before, is wanting to partner and integrate with lots of the large mining farms, as well as I think it's something that could help the community in the long run, like you building all these technologies. The thing is there's a lot of hype for things, and I'm not the type of person to hype things up. I'm not the type of person to if you go, by the way, this is none of this is investment advice. So
hmm.
none of this entire podcast obviously is investment
Yep.
advice. If the SEC chairman or FINRA is watching
Yep.
this, it's not investment advice. But if you go to BitClout Signal, you could see like all my buy transactions, or in Prosper Cloud, you could see all my buy transactions for my coins. I almost always usually buy my coins or respend FR on my coins. At least that's what I'm currently doing. And I don't make like a screenshot or a big announcement about it, or be like, I'm gonna sell all my coins right now, and I'm gonna rebuy them like 3 days later and blah blah blah. Like, I don't do that. I like building stuff. I don't like gamifying the price. So
Interesting. Makes sense. Yeah, let's move on to cloud contract, because it's so interesting because I can totally see how much potential it has, right? So let's start with that. I would love to know more about cloud contracts. How are you thinking about adding the smart layer in BitCloud?
So cloud contracts, I am trying to actually build something where it's like it's tied to BitClout in some way. I'm thinking of it people originally tying like their BitClout coin to some sort of vault or creating like a wrapped asset, as well as having the option if people want to just make a smart contract that's just tied to their account but not really directly tied to their tokens. So those are the two things I'm exploring right now. It has an integration right now that I've been working on with the Agoric SDK, which allows you it's non-production mode because the Agoric SDK doesn't launch until like 2 or 3 weeks from now, but allows you to have like this open source vault where you could issue NFTs, issue assets, build lightweight contracts on top of JavaScript. So that's the first phase. The second phase that I want to do is an Ethereum optimistic layer, or an optimistic rollup is what they call it. They use rollup over layer. I like to use the word layer because it's on top of Ethereum. But the second phase I want to do is an optimistic rollup that integrates that first phase, but on top of the Ethereum blockchain, with which would allow you to do the exact same thing, but with higher liquidity, obviously. And the thing about it being a optimistic roll up right now is lots of contracts could cost hundreds of dollars on the Ethereum blockchain to deploy. The gas fees are ridiculous, like ridiculous, and it takes many hours. Our goal is to have like really data processing heavy contracts to be deployed for like 25 cents and then less than a cent per transaction in the long run. So I feel like as long as I focus on the tech and roll it up correctly, lots of people would want to build dApps. And about the thing about cloud contracts is two things that are really unique. So one, we don't just plan on building on BitClout. So other social networks that are decentralized, like Minds.com or Peepeth, we plan to hopefully reach out to them and also ask them about like integrating them. And if they say no, we'll be like, oh well, the code is open source, so we'll just do it anyways. But that's a bit of a joke, but yeah, it's not the only social network that we plan to integrate with. But another thing that's also unique is if people build dApps, since it's technically tied to Agoric and then tied to this new rollup layer that we're building on Ethereum. If BitClout goes entirely offline or something, or like Diamond Hands goes to Vegas or whatever, those dApps still exist. So and that network still exists. So I'm building it in a way where it's unique on its own, but people could start tying their BitClout assets to it if they wanted to, rather than it directly relying on BitClout's hash keys and all of that. So it's actually if you think about it, since the given the fact that it complements BitClout sort of as like a layer, or like I could use BitClout and use cloud contracts. If you think about it, it's a great alternative to like a soft or hard fork as well. So
Interesting. And first of all, is it difficult to build? Actually, kind of taking a step back, what would be an example use case of that? Like, if you can like, think about like what, like how does that future look like? One simple use case.
So one simple use case is it doesn't have to be a famous celebrity, but
Mhm.
any creator, they wanna launch like a full fledged app or network where they could onboard their users to the smart contracts, and people could actually run a dApp where they could track lots of the creator activity and stuff like that to actually build an entire I wrote a 7 page white paper about this, by the way, so it's worth a read. But to actually build like an entire decentralized application or smart contract like that, it would take like 3 to 4 months. I'm building it where everything is mostly pre-configured. So it's more like if you wanna be a really good blockchain architect, you could do that tomorrow. And then the people who want to build advanced stuff on it that is built on top of what's already pre-configured would still be able to do that. So it caters towards you're basically allowing the creator economy to become the DApp economy as well. So it's basically what it is. It's like it's taking it to like step two, where instead of just having a creator coin, you could have creator assets, you could have your own decentralized application and all of that. So if you wanted for like a music streaming service that tied to like your posts on minds.com through like a wrapped asset or something, you're able to do that. You're able to do the smart contract for that in like 30 lines of code. Like the music streaming, that's a different story, but that's just one use case. Like the actual like back end for lots of the core functionality that they're looking for, and true that you could be like, oh well, we could already do lots of stuff like that to Solidity, or we could make wrapped assets or vaults for this and this and this. But we're doing it as a layer that has low gas fees, and compared to other layers on top of Ethereum, other different rollups, we're actually targeting the creator economy directly. Lots of them are targeting like actual like DApp developers. We're trying to target the best of both worlds. So we're trying to really focus on making associable smart contracts, making different contracts for artists and stuff like that. And I think once people slowly start seeing the potential, you'll start seeing like lots of big creators on the platform. Obviously in the first phases it's going to be like really messy code. The UI is not going to be like amazing. It's going
Yeah,
to be built off of open source packages and just a little bit of custom code. Like it'll look makeshift in like month 1 to 3 probably. Month 4 to 5 it'll look like, okay, this is starting to look like a early stage maybe series A startup. And then months 6 to 8 it's going to be like, okay, there's like maybe like a couple hundred dapps on it and so on. So
interesting. That's fascinating. Okay, I kind of do see what you mean. I do understand. And so, like in general, there could be a lot of things because it's tied into the whole the cloud coin. So now all of a sudden that could all be tied in with different assets and different things, but it's also linked to your the money aspect of it too, which makes it very interesting as well, I guess.
yeah, and what's also interesting is the DApp still exists. So if BitClout goes bye bye, that still exists. So lots of people that want to soft that or hard fork BitClout don't necessarily need to do that when there's stuff like cloud contracts that could be created, and we're also targeting other platforms like Minds.com. So we want to. I'm not saying this is a possibility, but if this is really successful, there might even be a time where it has a higher market cap than BitClout.
Interesting. Huh. Very cool. Let's move on to something. I saw one of your posts where you were talking about, like perks for holders. You were using SubCloud or playing with it, I guess. And have you? I've been thinking a lot about this too. Have you thought about some really good perks for holders?
Um, Well, right now I've it's been pretty early. Something I did do recently is I seen like some of my top 5 holders, and including David's son, which again not investment advice. And if one of those people obviously buy a coin, that's not an endorsement of me or the project. That's just something that I noticed in this case scenario. But I seen some people that were top holders and they were holding for a really long time. They own more than one coin, and I noticed which ones like didn't aren't regular like holders and then sellers. So I decided to award each of them like of half of a coin, like 0.5 AMKN coin for holding for a long time, as sort of as
Interesting.
like as if it was a dividend, but I did it manually. So that's one
Interesting.
way that I awarded people. Another way is stuff like rare sports events. Like if someone holds more than one of my coin, and this outcome happens for an event, which again, not investment advice, not sports gambling. It's just something that I create that's complementary. If someone holds more than one of my coins and so happens in a sport event, I will issue NFT bats to those who own more than one AMKN coin. So something I tried doing that with was the Mayweather versus Logan Paul event. The outcome didn't happen, so I didn't issue the bats. But maybe if there's other rare sport events in the future, I might do another one of those like quote unquote giveaway type things.
Interesting. I also wonder because I remember also reading about your one of your posts, which was about something about like it'd be cool to like have some sort of anti dumping mechanism for big cloud creators.
Oh,
I also
that is one of
sorry.
my favorites. Like the repo is there, but basically I'm like buy 1,000 of your coin and then set up FR to that to reward distribute to early investors 3 days later. So I didn't try that. I might try
Yeah.
that for one of my newer projects, but something on GitHub that's like this instructional menu on like what my preferred method might be to avoid something like dumping in the future.
Yeah, I also wonder. This is I'm gonna say this out idea aloud. Might be a stupidest idea, but I want to get your thoughts on this. And will make a small clip of this and put it out. But what do you think would be an interesting way when you're buying a coin? It gives you an option to lock in, let's say 6 months lock in period. And like how right now it says on investments it says purchased or received. What if it says locked in? Like,
Okay.
do you think that that would kind of signal if this person is on like is this like a long term hold or not?
Okay, so first off, for creator, I was talking about anti-dumping mechanism for investors. So that was the thing that I
Oh, right.
made. So for creator coins, it's a different story. But I've seen people talking about locking for like 3 month period or 6 month period, or some people were like, don't let creators even buy their coins, which I disagree with. My 2 cents are on this. So if BitClout wanted to make an option like that, it needs to be optional because of free markets.
Hmm.
So,
Obviously, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel like if you tell creators, hey, you can't sell any of your creator coins for profit for 6 month at a time, that will kind of ruin an incentive for some people who might need to pay for rent and have like popular coins or something like that,
See,
just as an example. So
see, that's one part of it. I'm also talking about like what if like let's say when let's say if I'm buying your coin, let's say if I'm buying Andrew coin, right? I'm saying what if like you have an option of like normal coin purchase, but then there's also an option which says I have to lock my investment in. Like I buy your coin and I cannot sell your coin for 6 months. That shows you that I'm a long term investor, right? And that
yeah,
shows
so
other people my like my like
So
that
my
I'm
my
bullish.
thing that I want for both that I think is the best way to handle it for both investors and creators is have this as an optional feature where
Yeah,
someone could press that button when they're buying new creator coins or not. Like not like a feature that they have to do like all the time, but every time they make a purchase, it tells you, do you want to lock in or not? So
yeah.
optional because of free markets.
Obviously,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
and then people who could set a custom date. So I'm thinking like they could just type in like number of days they want to lock it. So someone might type like 2 days, some might type three, some might type 90 days. But obviously, over time, the people that are more active and have things like 30, 60, or 90-day lock ins, people will see that. And since it's optional, they'll be like, okay, they decided to do this for that purchase. So I think in the meantime, I'm able to trust them. So I think something like
Yeah.
that, where it's optional, you don't have to do it for every purchase. But they see it for the purchases that you do it. So you could buy like 10 creator coins at once and do it, and then one day you could buy two creator coins and say, I'm not going to lock this in. So if you do it
Mm.
optional and it builds a trust mechanism that way, and people are able to see, like, okay, this guy locked his accounts, his coins for this period, their investors locked the coins for this period, it's able to work in a way that's lenient towards free market because everyone volunteered. And you also get the same sort of security that you got with things like lockup periods where they do that for stocks as well in the real financial markets that are non-crypto but equity based.
Yeah, but there's also has to be some form of like something you get out of it. Like if I'm lock, I mean maybe not. Maybe in like big time investors can lock
Well,
into your support.
since it's optional, I think integrating staking and all of that in terms of like the actual network architecture,
Hmm.
I think what you get is more trust. But when you are like, okay, we need to integrate staking, blah 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 blah, it adds a higher complexity. So I don't think you
Makes sense.
necessarily need to do that.
Yeah, like let's say if I'm doing a project, like for example, like with us, Cloud Passport, we have like automatic from BitClout Pulse and like arts as investors. But like you're right, if I can get that, if it shows that they're locked in for a year, right? That adds more trust for the people that, hey, oh, they're not going to sell for a year, so that means they're
And
actually
then
backing founder up,
that's
and
a
yeah.
and that's if you buy a lot of coins. But if you're like, okay, I wanna maybe lock in coins for 30 days. If you buy more coins, you have the option again to be like, do I want to lock this up at all or not? And you could set the day. So I think setting time intervals, setting the day as custom, and making it opt-in is like the best way to handle it in a way that allows free markets. I really hope that
Well, yeah,
if
I do agree with you. Yeah, but I also think that it's an interesting thing is maybe not even as a starting point, maybe not even having it like for like later everyone. I'm just saying for brand new projects that are starting out, right?
Mhm.
Like who and because right now, what's the biggest challenge that we see? One of the challenges is like that a lot of projects come out, and some of them are good, some of them are not. You don't know. Trust is a huge problem, right? So for only for the brand new projects, what if for the first year of a project or first 6 months of a project, you have a lock-in period for, and it's again obviously free market, so only for people, but it's only for that first 6 months of a new project, and that's only for people who want to lock in. But that would signal so much trust that the investors believe in this founder.
Yeah, you could have that offset for new projects. I mean, I feel like if it's optional anytime, just on the coin purchase, it's fine either way. But something like that where it's optional, you set the time period. That's a great way because it's like it doesn't force someone to be like every single purchase where it's like I have to lock in all my coins for a year. They could purchase a large amount and say that part is locked for a year, and then they could purchase a very small amount and say that part is not locked. So that's great in terms of it's optional like that. And then the other aspect to it is you establish trust. You don't make it where some people were discussing it like, oh, maybe just have them get FR rewards all the time, but don't let them buy into their own creator coin. That'd be terrible. That's something people discussed to handle it. I think the best way to handle it is not doing that. Have stuff that are optional that supports a free market, and you could create trust mechanisms out of that.
Love that. So are we collaborating and doing this or what? What's going on here, Andrew? Let's
So,
go.
if Diamond Hands is hearing this, I'm willing to help out with the code. I don't know who else might be willing to help out with the code, but if they're hearing this or whoever's working on the um, on the actual lock mechanism, if there will be a lock mechanism, I hope they take what I said into consideration because I feel like that's the best way to tackle it in a way that supports free market. I don't want to have stuff where it's like it forces someone to do something because if you integrate code that forces someone to do something, even if you have a bunch of nodes agreeing on consensus, it still adds some sort of centralization aspect to it.
Makes sense. What we're gonna do is we're gonna tag Diamond Hands on this clip, and we're gonna keep on tagging again and again until he fucking watches it and replies to us. We.
And he needs to verify me. I'm still waiting to be verified. I sent him like a two paragraph email, like the first or second day I joined at BitClout, with all my social media accounts and being like, I teach X amount of students in Udemy, and I still haven't got verified. People way less popular got verified, so I don't know what's going on with the verification mechanism. I
I,
didn't send a follow up email, but
I'm sure there's a project that probably will get created in the future as well, somewhere to do with verification. I'm sure they probably have a lot on their plate right now, and there's so much going on. So I can only imagine. But I'm guessing there might be a simpler way of dealing with that in the future with verification. Uh, Again, an interesting project that I mean, this platform is all about trust, at least or Web 3.0 economy, I guess. So
so
so I think that
I
probably will
think
get
in
solved.
terms of verification, they have something right now in the code where they manually have to have someone verify it.
Yeah,
I think instead of having to verify influencer status, because I myself am an influencer, but I don't wanna ping Diamond Hands like 1,000 times, being like verify me, because I don't care about the blue check mark. But I think
yeah,
instead of verifying influencer status, since it is decentralized, they should just focus on ways to verify identity. So if you're able to actually verify your email and then like a third party social media account, maybe it might automatically just give you the blue check mark, and then eventually other people has all have blue check marks, and you could actually verify real identity. And if there's abuse, there's like some sort of mechanism that's integrated for tackling abuse. So
makes
I feel
sense.
like I feel like that's the best way to handle it. because obviously I don't want a bunch of people to in the future to create a bunch of AMKN coins, which they will. Inevitably, a bunch of people are gonna try being me just on the basis that I'm building a bunch of projects on BitClout that will gain popularity. I don't want them to like claim to be me and then but whatever. But
Yeah. No, I
I
get
think
it.
integrating a automated system for that is the best way to handle it.
No, I get it. And also, we're too early right now. I'm pretty sure there's going to be better systems in place, and that's all going to happen, right? Like as smart people like yourself, like keep on building these tools. I'm sure the space is going to get evolved, and all these things will be in place. Thank you so much, man. I want to end this podcast by first of all saying thank you for coming on the show. This was amazing. You're a smart guy, and the stuff you're building is so cool. So excited to see how this evolves, and yeah, glad that you were able to take some time out and chat with us.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.